Bakram Jeet calendar, part 48. Well, the Gregorian calendar had certain reforms, and we talk about these reforms. There were Christopher Clavius, 1538 to 1612, one of the main authors of the reform. And then there was Pope Gregory XIII, and he was, of course, the protagonist of the reforms to the Gregorian calendar. Then, of course, we have got the papal bull Inter Grafissimos, and we have the details of the Pope's tomb of Camillo Rusconi, which was completed in 1723. Antonio Lillo genuflecting before the Pope presenting his printed calendar was one of the scenes. The Gregorian calendar was a reform of the Julian calendar. It was instituted by Papal Bull Inter Grafissimos, dated 24 February 1582 by Pope Gregory XIII, after whom the calendar is named. The motivation, it was done on 24 February 1582 by Pope Gregory XIII, after whom the calendar is named the Gregorian calendar. The motivation for the adjustment was to bring the date for the celebration of Easter to the time of the year in which it was celebrated when it was introduced by the early church. The error in the Julian calendar, its assumption that there are exactly 365.25 days in a year, had led to the date of the equinox according to the calendar drifting from the observed reality, and thus an error had been introduced into the calculation of the date of Easter. Although a recommendation of the First Council of Nicaea in 325 specified that all Christians should celebrate Easter on the same day, it took almost 5 centuries before virtually all Christians achieved that objective by adopting the rules of the Church of Alexandria. Easter for the issues which arose. Background. Because the date of the Easter is a function, the computus, of the date of spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, the Catholic Church considered unacceptable the increasing divergence between the canonical date of the equinox observed reality. Easter is celebrated on the Sunday after the ecclesiastical full moon on or after 21 March, which was adopted as an approximation to the March equinox. European scholars had been well aware of the calendar drift since the early medieval period. Bede, writing in the 8th century, showed that the accumulated error in his time was more than 3 days. Roger Bacon, in Christ 1200, estimated the error at 7 or 8 days. Dante, writing Christ 1300, was aware of the need for calendar reform. An attempt to go forward with such a reform was undertaken by Pope Sixtus IV, who in 147, beg your pardon, please, Pope Sixtus IV, who in 1475 invited Reggio Montarius to the Vatican for the same purpose. However, the project was interrupted by the death of Reggio Monotonus shortly after his arrival in Rome. The increase of astronomical knowledge and the precision of the observations towards the end of the 15th century made the question more pressing. Numerous publications over the following decades called for a calendar reform, among them two papers sent to the Vatican by the University of Salamanca in 1515 and 1578. But the project was not taken up again until 1540s and implemented only under Pope Gregory XIII. We'll talk about it more in our forthcoming video as I go along with them.